Hi everyone, welcome to Vantage Live Analysis session. So I'll just wait for about 1 to 2 more minutes for more people to join us before we begin the session. So for those of you guys who are here, a very warm welcome, right? So if you guys have any questions or any specific charts that you want us to take a look at, do put them under the questions chat. So I have both the chat box as well as the Q&A open, so I will be able to see any of your questions that you guys have. Okay, so let's get the session started, right? So for today, we will be doing our live analysis session. So for this, we will be taking a look at different setups. Mainly, I'll be taking a look at dollar index as well as Aussie dollar for today. So if you guys have any other questions as well, or any other charts that you want us to do an analysis on, do put your request under the questions chat. So just before we begin, a quick introduction of myself. I'm Li Sing. So I provide FX advisory to institutional clients. I'm also part of the team that's recognized by the Technical Analyst Awards as finalists for the best FX research. If you guys have any questions, right, so if you're with us live right now, if you have any questions, feel free to put them under the questions chat. If you're watching a recording of this, right, you can also feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any questions for the sessions done on Wednesdays, Thursdays, or Fridays. So separately, I have a few people asked whether this session is recorded, right? So all of the sessions that we do are recorded. You can also find them on Vantage YouTube page. So just a quick disclaimer before we get the session started. The information presented here, it's not to be treated as investment advice. It's for educational purposes only. So this is the agenda for today. We'll first hop onto the economic calendar to cover the key economic events, and then we will move on to our trade setups. So for today, I'll be taking a look at dollar index just to see if dollar index is sitting on any key levels, as well as Aussie dollar. And then along the way as well, if you guys have any questions, right, do feel free to put them under the chat box or the Q&A box. So throughout the session, we will be open for Q&A as well. So this is a 30-minute session, right? So this, just before we hop onto the trade setups, let's first take a look at the economic calendar. So I'll just bring up this tab. So for economic calendar here, you can usually go to, I usually use Forex Factory, or you can also use, so usually I use Forex Factory, or you can also use Vantage website, right? So either or works. So for Vantage website, you can just go to vantagemarkets.com. And then under education and tools, under economic calendar. So you can take a look at this. I think they have a lot more currency pairs as compared to Forex Factory. But if you want to narrow down the search, Forex Factory has a filter. So yeah, so it really depends on your preference. Okay, so this is Vantage Economic Calendar. As you can see here, right, these are the different currencies that are involved, and then this would be the impact of the news. So the higher impact would be, for example, the interest rates decision. So we do have a few central banks this week, as well as all inventory data, CPI data, which was out yesterday for US. Yeah, so you can take a look at this key event. So you can see for the coming, for today, right, we have CAD, some movement. We will be seeing some data for the CAD as well as dollar. Right, so we have the oil inventories data out, and then later today as well, we will be having FOMC interest rates decision. Okay, so the Fed interest rate decision here, as well as New Zealand's GDP data. Yeah, so these are the key data you can see from this, right? The high impact ones. So usually I try and focus on the high impact ones. If you're on Forex Factory, usually what I will do is to filter this moves, right? So these are the G7 currencies, including the CNY as well. And then over here, you can see that these are basically the high and medium impact news. So as you can see here, right, the coming ones that we have mainly would be on the interest rates decision. So market are expecting about a 50 basis point hike, right? So from 4% to 4.5%. So we will be seeing quite a bit of movement in the dollar. And then other interest rate decision we have would be from the SNB. There is one from ECB as well. Oh, sorry, BOE, right? So Bank of England. And then the ECB here as well. So these are the other ones that we will have for the coming week. Okay, so now that we have gone through the economic calendar, you can see that these are the key events that we have, right? So the next one that I want to go through would be on the charts. So just looking at it more from a technical perspective, if there are any key levels that we are on right now. So I'll first cover dollar index. So dollar index will give us a range of, or rather just an overview of where the dollar is heading, what are the key levels that prices are testing. And then afterwards, we will move on to Aussie dollar as well. Okay, so let's take a look at dollar index first. Okay, so as usual, we want to start from the higher time frame, right? You can see on the monthly. So usually I'll try to start the analysis from a top-down approach, looking at either the monthly, the weekly, or the daily to help us to see if there are any key levels that prices are currently testing, right? So you can see on the monthly time frame, just this region itself, you can see that this was a resistance level. The price came in and tested twice here, with this sharp rejection of this level once, and then again over here. And the third reaction here where price broke above it and retested as a support before it continued to the upside. And currently you can see that prices are testing this support level. So this is on the monthly picture, right? So as usual, when price comes into a key level, we don't want to take any trades immediately off this level, especially if it's on a higher time frame. The reason for that is because your range could be very wide. So in this case, usually we want to go down to the smaller time frame, either on your 4 hours, your 1 hour, or even 30 minutes. So this is depending on your preference, right, to look for confirmation. So in this case, you can see that this is the push up, right, and that pullback. So what we can do next is to find if there are any retracement levels using our Fibonacci retracement to see if there are any levels that line up with the support zone that we found. So one thing to note about Fibonacci retracements is that the way you do a Fibonacci retracement, right? Because Fibonacci retracement, there are a few ratios that are common. So essentially what happens is that as with almost at specific intervals, you will see a Fibonacci retracement level. So it's important that when we do our Fibonacci retracement, right, we want to highlight zones that we are looking at. So key zones that prices interacted with previously, and then use the Fibonacci levels to confirm the zones instead of doing it the other way around, where you're just taking Fibonacci levels without any specific key areas that prices respected before that. So you can see that this is a zone that price interacted with multiple times. So this is a retracement. So we took a retracement, basically taking the low, ending at the high here. So taking a Fibonacci of this move, you can see that price came into this 50% retracement. The 50% retracement coincides with this support area that we have. So this is one. And the next thing that we want to do would be Fibonacci extensions. So Fibonacci extensions, just a quick recap of what it is. They are essentially zigzag patterns. So in this case, you can see that for Fibonacci extension, this is the zigzag pattern that we have, right? So this is the zigzag pattern. And it's important to identify the zigzag pattern, because once you identify this zigzag pattern, we want to use these 3 turning points to project our extension level. So what we're basically trying to do here is that we are taking the length of this move, over here. We are trying to see if the length of this move can be used to project this move downwards. So if it's 100% extension, what this suggests is that this move over here, this pullback, and this pullback are of the same length. Okay, so for Fibonacci extension, having found this zigzag pattern, we want to use these 3 turning points and we'll project the extension level. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So this is the first point, the highest point, the lowest point, and the third point. So generally for Fibonacci extension, there are three common levels that I use, right? So the 61.8 extension, 78.6, as well as 100%. Beyond 100%, usually it will be the 1.272 as well as the 1.618. So there's 5 levels. So in this example, you can see that in this case, right, this is the 78.6 extension. And this extension level, it's where prices are currently testing right now. So this also serves as a support and it's aligned with the support zone. So the reason why we're doing this is just to find out if there are any key levels, right? If you are any Fibonacci confluence levels, basically levels that are lining up at a zone, it gives us a higher probability setup. So bearing in mind that this is on the monthly time frame, right, we could see consolidation before a move up here, right? So this is on the monthly. When we go to the daily time frame, you can see that coming into this region itself over here, maybe not so much on the weekly, but if you go down to the daily, you can see here, right, in terms of market structure, again, here, right, coming into this zone, you can see lower lows and lower highs being formed. Prices are currently testing the support level. So a confirmation of it really comes when price breaks above the last high. You can see here. So this is the last high, which broke the previous low. So for any confirmation, we want a clear break of this high. So this is the last high that we have over here. You can see this region, essentially this line. If you take a look at it in line chart, you can see it very clearly as well, how this is the high where we saw that push down, which caused that break in structure. And also more importantly, this was a level that was respected as both a support and resistance. So this is the last area that we have, right? Of course, if price continues to form lower low and lower high, then the high that we need for a break above, right, to see that change in structure will then be shifted as well. So this is the area. So you can see dollar index on the daily, right? So it's sitting on a key support level, but in order to confirm more upside, for more confirmation to the upside, we want to wait for a break of this zone. So this is the resistance area here. You can see that this is currently the support area on the monthly that prices are testing. There is also something else to note, is that you can see in this region itself, prices are still holding below this descending channel. So if I have to focus on the recent moves that we have over here, you can see that it's the descending channel. And in order to make it a valid channel, right? So for a channel to be considered valid, we need a tap of the resistance level twice. So it fulfills this. And we also need a tap of the support level twice here. So we need price to acknowledge this zone before we can consider it a channel. So you can see that it fulfills both criteria of a test of both support level and a resistance level as well. And surprisingly here, this level, you can see this high that we note, right? So the last high that we need for a break and a change in structure. In this case, this high also coincides with the descending channel. So right now, if you're on the daily time frame, you can see that with this bearish market structure and also the descending channel, prices are still in a downtrend, even though we are coming into a monthly support region here. Okay, so these are just key levels to watch. And if you're on the 4 hours, so dollar index on the 4 hours, right, we don't really see much on the 4 hours, pretty much the same thing. The last high doesn't change, right? You can see that this, in terms of structure, pretty much the same area here. So there isn't anything much that we can get from the 4 hours apart from what we have found on the daily, right? So the picture's pretty much the same. So this is the view on dollar index here. Right, so these are the key levels to watch. In order for more upside confirmation, we want a clear break of this level here. So this is on dollar index, right? The next one that we want to take a look at, it's on Aussie dollar. And if you guys have any chart requests as well, right, do put them under the questions chat. Or if you guys have anything or any charts that you want us to take a look at, right, do put them under the chat as well. Okay, so let's take a look at Aussie dollar. So as usual, we want to start from the higher time frame. So you can see on the monthly first. So there isn't any key levels on the monthly, right? One interesting thing to note, if you're to just draw a horizontal line across, you can see on the monthly, this zone itself, price came in, tested as both a support, a resistance, and right now it's coming into this region again. Okay, sorry, just before I go on to Aussie dollar, I have a question on dollar index, right? So regarding dollar index, will it give a false break slide under the support zone you draw, then bounce back up? So let's take a look at dollar index again. Okay, so this is the support area over here, right? So this region, so yes, it's possible, especially when we have FOMC interest rate decision coming up, right? You can see that there is a lot of volatility in dollar index. My view on this is that for dollar index, right, regardless of whether it will spike below this area, that confirmation will come on the smaller time frame first. So if prices just goes right through this area before that push up, in this case, right, there isn't any confirmation on the smaller time frame for the reversal. Hence, we want to stay out of this. So ideally, what you want to see coming into this region, it's on the daily. So a clear move down into this area, and then a clear break above the high, and that pullback in order for more upside. If we're seeing a case where it's driven heavily by fundamentals with sharp spikes up, in this case, right, it's the same thing, right? So you want to wait for, excuse me, you want to wait for the break of the last high that caused that break in structure, because that means that there is a change in structure and there is a move or a shift away from this downside. Okay, so that's my view on dollar index, right? It's always possible that this support zone doesn't hold, especially with this week's economic calendar. You can see that we have quite a few key events ahead. So in this case, right, there's always a chance that price could spike lower. What I do want to highlight in this case is that this consolidation over here, you can see even if I were to draw a horizontal line across, price came in, tested as a support, and then again as a resistance. So this will be one zone to watch as well. On the daily time frame, you can see if I were to draw a horizontal line across here, this area, and then in line chart as well, you can see this very clearly, both as a support and then as a resistance. So there's a chance that price could come and test this region, which is why, again, right, as long as we are on the daily time frame, you can still see bearish market structure. Hence, it's important to wait for that change, the break above the last high, to show us that this support area on the monthly time frame is indeed holding. And the reason why we know it's holding is because there is the change in structure on your smaller time frame. So because of the fractal nature of markets, what this shows is that imagine you have a trend that moves upwards, right? So within this bullish move itself, you can see that there are smaller trends. So essentially trends that look like this. So within the bullish move itself, you can see that there will be higher lows and higher highs being formed. And then again, on that pullback, you can see this region, right? So before we see this bigger pullback that's in red, you will see that change in structure first happen on the smaller picture. So, and then the pattern repeats itself, right? So this is due to the fractal nature of market. What this also suggests to us is that when you do your analysis on the higher time frame, you will see the reversal. So every reversal that we see on the higher time frame here, it will first be confirmed by a smaller time frame. So if you're on a 1 hour and you see this big moves coming up, on the 15 minutes, for example, you will see that change in market structure first happen on this reversal points, right? You will see it on the smaller time frame first. Okay, you're very welcome, Chong. Okay, and we will take a look at pound dollar as well, right? So giving two banks interest rate decision in the same day tomorrow. Yeah, so let's take a look at pound dollar in a moment. So I'll first take a look at Aussie dollar, right? And we will move on to pound dollar. And if you guys have any other requests as well, right, do put them under the chat. Okay, so as I was saying on Aussie dollar, you can see that there is this monthly area here, right? So if I have to highlight this zone across, you can see how price interacted with as both a support and then hovering as a support over here before that failure, and then testing it as a resistance support, and right now it's coming into this region again. This is on the monthly picture. If you take a look at it in line chart, you can see this line as well. So if I have to draw a horizontal line across, you can see that it separates the chart very nicely, very neatly across. Let me put this line in a different color so that we're able to see it clearly. So this area here, right? So if you take a look at it in line chart, you can see this area as well, the number of times that it has been tested. So this is the picture on Aussie dollar on the higher time frame. What this shows is that we could possibly see price coming into resistance area. We could see that reversal, but again, as always, right, for that reversal to be formed, this confirmation comes on the smaller picture. So we're on the monthly, which means that coming into this pullback on the monthly, this area here, right? So if you focus on this pullback, this region, you will see that on the smaller time frame, you have higher lows and higher highs being formed, which makes up this monthly move. So for this, right, you can go to the smaller time frame. So let's take a look at this area. So focus on only this portion of the chart, and you can see how the fractal nature of markets play out. So recall that I drew this monthly picture. So maybe let me just put a marker here so that's easier for us to track. So this area here, right? So on the monthly, you see that pullback, you see these 3 bullish candles representing the upwards move. If you take a look at it on the 4 hours, for example, you can see that these 3 bullish candles, it's actually categorized, or you can see clear market structure in terms of higher lows and higher highs being formed. So this is what I mean by a change in market structure. If you want a reversal on the monthly, we need confirmation or a break of the last low, essentially telling us that this uptrend over here that is formed on the 4 hours time frame has ended, and it's in line with the order flow on the monthly time frame, right? Because on the monthly we are currently on a resistance level, which means that we could see more downside. But for more downside to be formed, we need a clear break in structure on the 4 hours, which shows us that there's an end of an uptrend. We are seeing a potential shift in the trend from an uptrend to a downtrend. So you can see this very clearly, right? How refractal of nature of markets play out here. Okay, so once we have this concept in mind, what we want to do next is that you can see on the 4 hours or even before the 4 hours, let's go into the daily time frame first. So prices entered into this region, but even on the daily, again, right, if I to draw it in terms of line chart, you can see this area here very clearly as well. These are the highs. So one way is to look at it in line chart and just mark out the highs and lows. So you can see successive higher lows and higher highs being formed. What this tells you is that on the daily, it's still bullish for now, given the market structure. So apart from just this, you can see that it's also forming an ascending channel here. So again, if I have to draw it across, you can see that prices are coming into the resistance of an ascending channel that we have over here. Right, so this is the resistance area over here. And for those of you guys who are familiar with using supply demand areas, you can see that on the daily time frame, this candle itself. So if you take a look at how price interact with the wicks of these candles, you can see essentially this is the candle that's still held within the area, this consolidation before that breakup. So this candle itself, if you're on daily time frame, this can also be our supply region. So I just put this in a different color, let's say in blue. Okay, so what this shows over here on the daily time frame is that prices are coming into a resistance zone or this daily supply area. It's also coming into the resistance of the ascending channel that we have here. So again, how do we confirm that there is a reversal, or how do we know if this resistance level is going to hold? So this, we would need the smaller time frame to tell us, right? So going down to either the 1 hour time frame or even the 15 minutes to see again that change in structure, and essentially prices telling us that it's in line with the daily, right? Because this is the daily supply area. So again, the smaller time frame will always be used as the confirmation. Once the smaller time frame starts showing a change in structure, again, you see this bullish candle coming up. So again, you want to focus on this portion of the chart. So let me just put the marker here. So see this bullish move up. Again, if you take a look at it on the smaller picture, let's say on the 15 minutes time frame, you can see again clear higher lows and higher highs being formed coming into this region. So even though it's actually characterized by just one bullish candle on the 4 hours, on the 15 minutes, you can see again clear market structure being formed. So this is where it gets interesting, because what happens over here is that, again, right, if prices were to continue in an uptrend, the assumption is that it will continue to form higher lows and higher highs. But in this case, you can see that this is the last low that has been formed here. Price came into this region. We're seeing this reversal over here. And what's interesting here is that coming into this area, so we want to see if there's any cause of this reversal here. So if you take a look at this area, you can see that this region again, right? So it's the same concept being applied using supply demand areas. You can see that this candle over here. So if I to zoom in, you can see that this is the wicks of the candle. So this area here. So pretty much the same as what we did with the daily time frame. There is this price held within the wick and then fail. So when demand fails, it becomes supply. So this is the supply area here. So again, I want to put it in a different color. Let's put it in red. So you can see price came in, right, and it tapped into this area, and we're seeing that reversal. And along the way as well, what it also shows is that this, the tip of the candles itself, now serves as supply areas. You can see this area here, right? So essentially what happens is that price comes into this area and it starts forming your lower lows and lower highs. What this also suggests is that this low, so recall, when we see higher lows and higher highs being formed, you can see that in an uptrend, the lows itself would not be violated and the highs are constantly being broken. So this is the characteristics, right? In an uptrend, the highs itself would not hold. So if you want to sell at a resistance, it's not a good sell simply because this high itself is a weak high. So in this case, right, this low itself should not be violated, but for this low to be considered valid or for this low to be considered strong or a confirmed low, what we need is essentially a break of the high. Because if the uptrend is to continue, price should be breaking to form new higher lows and higher highs. But what this shows right now is that on the M15, you have a low over here. And right now, prices are respecting this resistance area that we have. You can see here, prices are respecting this resistance area. What this shows you is that if supply starts gaining control over here, right, this low that we have over here, it's a weak low, and hence is a good target. If we were to take any shots, we can target this low. Okay, so that's the assumption of this. So in this example, you can see that right now, right, at least on the 15 minutes time frame, the extremes of this moves over here are being respected. If you go down to the smaller time frame, either the 5 minutes or even the 5 minutes time frame, for example, you can see in this case, right, you have this moves, lower lows and lower highs that are being formed here. So this is the resistance area. Right, currently there isn't a clear structure on the 5 minutes, but you can see that this is the resistance area that we have. So essentially, if price respects this area, it forms a clear move, a pullback, come into a resistance area here. You can see that this is the resistance, this is the 5 minutes resistance area. Okay, so if price comes into this region, respects this zone, continue to the downside, you know that on a 15 minutes time frame, this area where we saw that consolidation earlier on, and more importantly, the area that forms the 15 minutes low. So if I go back to the 15 minutes low, you can see this area, right? So this is essentially the target where we can take the shots from. So understand that this analysis doesn't just come from just using the 15 minutes time frame. Recall that we started using on the daily, right? Before the daily, it's actually the monthly, right? So coming into a resistance area on the monthly zone, using the daily, you can see ascending channels, so still a bullish structure, but at the same time, it is testing a daily resistance or daily supply area here. And using the smaller time frame down to the 1 hour, the 15 minutes in this example, you see clearer market structure on the 15 minutes for confirmation. Okay, I have another question, right? So do you mind telling again regarding these kind of support resistance zone? Aussie dollar, would it try to test the upper bound of the range before bouncing down slowly, or can it bounce down in the middle of the range for a reversal scenario? Test the upper bound of the range. Okay, so I will assume that you are talking about this range that we have currently, right? So this is the range here. The way I see it on Aussie dollar right now, if you're on the 15 minutes time frame, you can see that this range itself, this is the low. So right now, what we are seeing over here, at least with the most recent moves, you can see it here as well. So let me just remove all of this. So essentially what it's being formed here right now is that prices are coming into this region. You saw that it came and tapped into a resistance area. And this is the resistance zone because if you take a look at how price interact with this, right? So there are a few ways you can take a look at it. You can take a look at the interaction between specific candles. Or if you want to take a look at the range itself, you can see that this is a range here. So if you take a look at it in line chart, you can see as well this pullback here. And then that reversal. Of course, we can say that every range itself could serve as a resistance area, and it's true. So every range itself could be a potential reversal. So what's important to note is that, again, when price comes into this area, we do the same thing, right? Go down to the smaller time frame for the confirmation. What you're seeing here when price comes into this range, and this basically supply chains that are being formed here. You can see lower lows and lower highs coming in and price respecting the extremes of this move. So the extremes of this move serves as a supply and then again over here. So my view on this is that I think price could continue on the downside, reaching this area here. This is one, right? So if you want to take a look at entries to play the shots, right? So I would say that this area itself would be a good target. This is also one area where I want to consider closing a big portion of the position and also protecting the profits. Okay, because I know that at this area itself, right, this low, if price fails to form a new high, this low itself is a weak low. It's a potential target. But beyond this low, right, of course, price would continue much lower. But beyond this low itself, we wouldn't know where price would react. which is why this is a good target. But once price comes into this area, you want to aggressively manage your positions. Okay, so this is my view on Aussie dollar, right? I hope that answers your question, Trong. Okay, so this is the view on Aussie dollar, right? Again, just looking at this area, if you do want to take a position, so this is currently on the 15 minutes time frame. You can see even within the zone itself. So for those of you guys who look at smart money concept, right? So the idea is basically looking at different time frames, looking at supply demand areas and seeing how price interact with these zones. So if you take a look at this area itself, you can see that even within this zone itself, right? So you can take a look at it in terms of line chart. You can take a look at it in terms of candles. They say the same thing pretty much, right? So if you take a look at it in candles, you can see that this is the first support area. So this is the first support area that we have over here. You saw how price reacted. So price came in, respected that support, and then it failed it. And once it failed it, it became a resistance zone. So price came in, pull back, and we see this deeper push down. So again, right, we're coming into a support area over here. So recall on the 15 minutes time frame, right, our order flow or our direction, it's more bearish, and it's bearish with the assumption that because if supply is going to continue holding, what this shows you is that this low itself fails to break the high. It's a weak low, hence it's a target. So if you take a look at how price interact with this zone, it's the same idea, right? When price comes into this area, it will pull back into a supply area and then again continue to the downside. So once price pulls back into a supply area, right? So this is where it gives us a probability setup, right? Of course, nothing it's 100%, right? There's always a chance that price will continue much higher and we are wrong on the setup. But the idea is that it gives us a good ratio or a good probability with this bearish order flow here. Okay, so you can see that just in terms of looking at supply areas, right now we are on this demand area. So this is the last supply area that we have. So if I were to draw it in, you can see that this candle over here, this is the last M15 supply area. This area here, you can take a look at it in line chart as well. This will be the move, essentially. So you can also consider putting the position, right? So this is the high. So once price breaks above, you can see that this is the last high. So when price breaks above this high, what this tells you is that this bearish idea that we have no longer holds. Why? Because if price breaks above this area, then we're expecting the upside to continue. Okay, so right now we're coming to a support region again. We could see again a pullback into this area here, into the support resistance area that we have, or supply area that we have here. Okay, so this is on Aussie dollar. Right, I hope that this analysis is clear and also the reason behind why it's so, right? So understand that it's always from a higher time frames picture and then using the smaller time frame for confirmation. Okay, let's take a look at gold, right? So we have requests for gold. So let's take a look at gold. So again, I'll just remove all this, right? And we'll go from the higher time frame. So on the monthly picture, you can see over here on gold, right? What we have over here, there isn't anything much on the monthly. We do see a pullback into this region. We have a potential supply area here. So just taking a look at the interaction between the candles, you can see here, again, price holding within this area. So even though it is on a monthly time frame, if you take a look at it on the smaller picture, you can see that it's actually consolidation on this area. So price coming in as a support and then failing this region as a resistance. So this is on gold, right? So this area. So this is the monthly supply. So I just want to put this in a different color and label the monthly supply. So this is M. If you take a look at it in line chart, you can see this region as well against the bottom resistance area over here. Price coming in to test it as a support. And then failing it as a potentially, right? So right now it's coming into this region. Again, just drawing horizontal lines, you can see that's a support area. Price came in and right now it's serving as a resistance. As to whether it will hold or not, we're on the monthly picture. We wouldn't know, right? Again, you need confirmation on the smaller picture. If we do see a reversal here, again, you want to see that change in market structure. So this is on the monthly. Let's go down to the weekly time frame. So on the weekly time frame, this is the same picture. You can see on the weekly, right, the same thing happening as well. Price coming into this region. You see that consolidation and you see the candle that hold within the wick before we see a more downside. So this is the weekly. So you can see even if I have to remove the monthly picture, On the weekly, right, it's coming into a resistance area here. We take a look at it on the daily. So nothing much on the daily, pretty much saying the same thing. You do see this, the sweep above. So price essentially sweeping above this high, coming into this resistance area. But you can see over here, right, so what's important to take note of is that in the most recent moves, this area, so usually coming into a resistance area, you can see this movements on the smaller picture. But this shows you again, this is the last high. You see that break above and that pullback, and price tested the high, but it fails to close above it on the daily. Let me see if it actually closes above it, this region here. No, it actually closes above it. So it was still in a bullish market structure as shown here, right? So again, higher lows and higher highs being formed. You see this move, you see it, if you see it in line chart, you can see this area as well. So if you mark out the highs and then the lows, you can see higher lows and higher highs being formed here. We have potentially a bullish structure here in terms of the channel. Again, for a channel to be considered valid, we need a test of the resistance. You can see here, a test of the resistance twice, test of a support twice. So this is a valid channel, right? So this is the area on the daily time frame. If you're on the 4 hours time frame, you can see that right now we're just seeing a huge spike up into a resistance, a potential reversal. But as of this region itself, there isn't any clear structure to be formed yet. We could see a pullback into this area, but you can see that this is an ascending channel. And what's more, with the bullish market structure, right, we need clearer structure to be formed. So right now, just highlighting key levels. Let me just change this. This is a bullish channel, so I'll just put it in green. So you can see this area itself, right? So on gold, in terms of the support levels that line up with this channel, this area is one. You see this region, again, how we determine this area, the consolidation over here, a clear break above, a retest as a support. And more importantly, this whole move, right? You can see that it broke the last high. So as long as price holds within this bullish market structure itself, right, this area, the move is still bullish. So this is the support that we found. It's in line with this area as well. So having found the support area, you identify the move. This is the low, this is the high. So what we can do with this is that we can use our Fibonacci retracement, starting from the low, ending at the high, and try and find if there are any confluence levels that line up. So in this example, you can see the 78.6 retracement lining up very nicely here. If you take a look at it in line chart, you can see as well, right, very clear consolidations that separates both the support and resistance. So this is one area to watch. Right, so if we do see a pullback from here, right, this is one area that we can consider. So this is on the 1 hour, 4 hours. On the 1 hour, right, we don't have much. There isn't any clear structure here. So if we do see a pullback, right, ideally you want to see lower lows and lower highs that are being formed. Right now, there isn't anything, not on the 1 hour time frame. So it's very muted movements, as you can see here, right? You can see a clear range and prices are holding within this area. So within this 15 minutes as well, you can see that there is a demand area that prices are holding and respecting here. Okay, so I would say that this is the last demand area on the 15 minutes time frame. If we do see more downside from here, we need a clear break of this region first. So we need a clear break of this region and then a retest of it as a resistance. And the next support level that you have, you can see just on the smaller time frame, would be this area here. So again, right, this is a significant reversal, a rejection here where you have sellers coming in to push prices lower. And then here over here, right, there's a lack of sellers and we see this huge move up. So if price breaks below this region, right, this would be the next target. For me, honestly, right now where gold is, there isn't a clear structure for me to take the short, right? But these are the levels that I would watch. So I would say that the clearest one right now for me is on a 4 hours time frame with this demand area here. Again, when price comes into this demand area, we don't want to take a trade immediately. Go down to the smaller time frame. If this is the picture on the 4 hours, you want to go down to either the 1 hour or 15 minutes when price comes into this zone. And again, wait for the change in structure before playing that move up. So yeah, so on the 15 minutes, this is currently the support area, right? So if we do see a break below this region, I think we could see a further push down, at least to test the support area over here. If price enters into this support zone that we have here, we should be seeing clear lows and lower highs coming into this region. Then what we want to do following an entrance right into this region is to wait for the change in structure, which will be denoted by the break of the last high that caused this break in structure. Okay, so I hope that answers your questions. Okay, so yeah, I think that's all the questions that we have for today, right? So I hope that the analysis for today it's clear and it's useful, right? So for tomorrow, we will be having an educational series. So you can again check out the schedule on vantage.com/webinars. And on Friday, we will be doing a review of the setups. So setups that we covered for today, and we'll also be doing a live analysis. So if you guys have any questions, right, feel free to put them here as well. Okay, so I hope that this session has been helpful, right? Thanks everyone. Oh, right, I'm so sorry, Chong. I missed out on pound dollar. Yeah, let's take a look at pound dollar. So sorry for that, right? So yeah, let's take a look at pound dollar again from the higher time frame first. I'll remove all this and let's start from the higher time frame. So again, on the monthly. So you can see monthly zone, right? So this is the resistance area, price broke above this region. We are not the end of the month yet, so we can't really see we need to wait for the close above this region, but you can see that this is the zone. And even if I to remove this area, you can see this zone that we have over here. So this is the region on the monthly time frame. If you go down to the weekly time frame, you can see that there is a very bullish move upwards. Price broke above it. There isn't any support level on the smaller picture. You can see over here, right? It's just strong bullish candles moving up. That's on the weekly, right? On the daily, same thing, right? So coming into this region. So again, even though we have identified this area on the monthly picture, you can see that on the monthly, this was the previous support and resistance area, as you can see over here. Again, right, coming into this region, so this is a resistance area. We don't want to take a short immediately. You can see that even when price comes into this region, there isn't any change in market structure. It's still bullish market structure. You can see higher lows and higher highs being formed here, right? So which is why it's always important, and you can get clues from the smaller time frame as to whether this higher time frame zone it's going to hold, because if it holds, it should be forming lower lows and lower highs. You should be seeing that change in structure, which you're not seeing over here, right? You can see clear higher lows and higher highs being formed. You can take a look at the daily as well. If you mark out the highs and lows, pretty much the same thing, right? So this region, so price tested above this area. And if you take a look at it, the next resistance area that we have, it's this region over here. It's this region because of how price reacted as a resistance, and then we saw that sharp rejection here. If you take a look at it, oops. If you take a look at it in line chart as well, you see that sharp reversal here. So twice, price coming into test it as a resistance twice. So this is one, right, on the daily picture. If you take a look at it on the 4 hours. So again, right, so clear break in structure here, price broke the last high. So when price broke the last high, you can see that this consolidation then serves as a demand area, because this consolidation is the one that held within the zone before the break of the high or the resistance area here. So let me just remove this because this is no longer relevant, this demand area, right? So you can see that this is the demand area, or the last consolidation that we saw before this bullish move up, even though I would say that this is a big part of this is driven by US CPI data yesterday. So this is more fundamental, right? But you can see this push up over here. And then again, prices also holding above this ascending trend line, this area, right? So this is the support region on the 4 hours time frame. Likewise, right? If we do see a pullback coming into this region, as long as price holds above this ascending trend line, you can see this area here, even if I were to stretch it all the way back. This ascending trend line, you can see clear higher lows and higher highs being formed as well. You can see this area, right? So this it's the move on pound dollar on the higher time frame. So this is on a 4 hours picture, right? So one more thing that you can check with this area, it's that when price pushes up and that pullback, this is the low and this is the high. So you want to identify the low and high. So Fibonacci retracement of this move from low to high. And then getting the key levels, you can see the 61.8 retracement here. Okay, so this is the area, that we have, right? 61.8 retracement. And you have another thing to check, Fibonacci extension, they are zigzag patterns. This is the zigzag pattern. These are the 3 points. So again, we're trying to project how far the extension levels, right? And if there are any levels that line up with the support zone that we found. So that's basically what we're trying to do. So you can see 2 levels lining up here. You have an ascending trend line and the support area, right? So this is one support area to watch. If you're on the 30 minutes time frame, again, no clear structure. You can see this, right? This is basically the last 30 minutes, 15 minutes is the same thing, right? So right now they're trying to form this M15 move. So again, if we do see a deeper pullback into this area, you can see that for this to happen, right, you need, again, a break of this last low and lower lows and lower highs coming into this region. Once price comes into this area, how do we know if this region is going to hold? You want to wait for the change in structure. So if we do see further upside from here, you should be seeing the reversal first happen on the 15 minutes time frame in terms of a change in structure, a break of the last high before it continues to the upside. So this is why the smaller time frame can be very useful in helping you to determine the setups. Okay, so yeah, so this is my view on pound dollar. I would say that right now where we are, right, so we have this demand area as you can see, or rather the support region over here, prices pushing into this area, coming into a resistance zone over here. I would consider this, let me just go to the 30 minutes time frame. You can see this area. I would consider this on the 30 minutes or 15 minutes, this region over here. Right, so this is the resistance zone for me, right? If you want to take a look at it in terms of zones here, or line chart, you can see this area. So if I were to draw a horizontal line across, right, probably be around here, right? So for me right now, it's not really in trading anywhere. It's kind of in a range, right? It doesn't come into a resistance area. So if it does come into this area, again, I want to go to the smaller time frame for confirmation of a reversal. But right now where it is, there isn't any key levels for me on pound dollar, at least not on the 15 minutes time frame. But this would be the bigger time frame, the picture that I'll be watching on pound dollar. Okay, so I hope that answers your question, Chong, right? I'm so sorry for missing out on pound dollar. Okay, you're very welcome, Jamilu. Okay, I have another question, right? So it waits for whether it's a big bearish breakout or continuous bullish support line. Yes. Right. So if we do see a break below, a bearish move down, right, in line with the monthly zone, we do keep in mind that there is a higher time frame resistance over here. So unless we see a clear change in structure, right now it's still holding above this bullish move. You can see on the 4 hours. So unless there is a change or a break below the trend line and also a break of this demand area that we have here. Okay, so I hope that all of this okay, I have another question, right? Okay, so this will be the last chart that I'm taking, right? So Euro Kiwi. So let's take a look at Euro Kiwi. Right, so let's take a look at where that's the higher time frame, right? Where is it sitting on? And then yeah, we'll take a look at it from there. So on the monthly picture first, right, you can see over here, again, focus on this most recent move. So you can see this moves over here, clear higher lows and higher highs being formed, right, with this area. This region itself, you can see that this, so usually what we do here is that in terms of demand and supply areas, the extreme of this moves itself serves as demand. So what I mean by this is that you can see how price come into this area. It came in, tested this region. So on the monthly, you can see this area, price coming into this region, tested as a demand, continue to the upside. So this candle itself serves as a demand area here. So if I were to shift this, you can see this area. So this is the demand area on the monthly time frame. Again, whether this demand area is going to hold or not, we wouldn't know, right? So we need to go down to the smaller time frame to check for that change in structure. But as of the monthly, right, this is the region that it's holding. If you go down to the weekly time frame, you can see this area as well. So one thing we can do with this, right? So you see that strong push up and then this reversal. What you can do with this as well, it's again Fibonacci retracement of this move. So taking the low, taking the highs. So once you take a Fibonacci retracement of this move from low to high, again, check the key levels. You can see the 78.6 retracement, right? So this lines up with the support zone that we found. So this is on a weekly picture, but you can see as far as where we are right now on the weekly picture, you can see clear lower lows and lower highs being formed. Maybe not so much on the weekly, but you can see this on the daily, right? So prices are in a downtrend. If I were to put it in line chart, you can see how prices are forming clear lows and clear highs. So if I were to mark out the lows, mark out the highs, you can see this is the move that we have, right? So essentially lower lows and lower highs being formed. So this is the area that we have, right? So currently prices are within this zone. It's also holding below a descending channel that we have here. So again, if I were to extend this, you can see price coming in to test it as a resistance and support here. Twice, and then this is a lot more than twice, right? We have like 5 times here. So this is the descending channel on the higher time frame. Okay, so this is on the daily time frame. Let's take a look at this. So nothing much. If you're on a 4 hours time frame, you can see that. So this is interesting. You can see that prices right now on the 4 hours time frame. So ignoring the descending channel, right? Just bear in mind that there is one descending channel on the daily time frame, but I will remove this descending channel so that we're able to see this moves more clearly on the 4 hours, right? So this is just on the daily, right? Let's go to the 4 hours time frame. You can see on the 4 hours time frame, right? So just looking at support resistance level itself, you can see this clear zone that we have, right? Price coming in to test it as a support and then as a resistance. You see this moves over here. So look at it in line chart, you can see the same reaction, price acknowledging this zone as both a support and resistance area. So the assumption here is that if prices were to continue to its bearish trend, right, coming into this region, what should happen is that it should continue to form lower lows and lower highs. So this is the last high that we have, but you can see that the last high, we fail to see a clear strong break below this low. You can see this area, right? Price did not close below this low. You see a number of times that price actually wicked below it, but failed to close below this region. So what this also suggests on the 4 hours time frame is that this high itself, right? So if we see that demand areas start gaining control, so it fails to close below this low, it's the first clue that this high itself could be a weak high because it fails to form a new low. That's one, right? But what we want to keep in mind is that right now where we are, you can see that we don't have any areas where prices tap into these candles and there's this respect of this demand zones. So you don't see it yet, right? So right now you can see that if you take a look at the extreme of this moves, you can see these candles, essentially the ones at the extreme of these areas. Prices came in and it's respecting the supply region here. So this zone itself, I would say that this is the range that we want to look at for a clear bullish confirmation. We want to wait for a break above. So this is the last high that actually broke structure. So this is the last high where a break above this high would confirm the move up. If not, right, we could see continuation to the more downside, at least to come deeper, to mitigate basically deeper into this demand area that we have. So this is the range that I would consider for Euro Kiwi, right? A break above this area, here, this high, because this is the last high where we saw the break in the structure. So what this shows me is that this high should not be violated. If the bearish move were to continue, this high should continue to hold. But if this high is broken, what this suggests is that there is a change in structure on your 4 hours. Okay, so I hope that answers your question, right? So I don't usually use indicators as the main analysis, but you can see in this example as well, even for Ichimoku Cloud. So this is a trend indicator. You can see here prices are also holding below this area. So this could be another indicator that supports this bias. Okay, you're very welcome, Michael. I hope that helps. Okay, so with that, we have come to the end of the session, right? So I'm very glad that this is an interactive session and you guys came with tons of questions. It's great, right? So hopefully for Friday as well, we will have the session, right? And you guys can come with any questions that you have, right? And we will do a review of the setups as well. So thanks everyone. We will catch you guys tomorrow as well as Friday, right? Stay safe, trade safe, and take care.